All right. Well, welcome to the very first Bay Area Sports podcast. The name will change eventually, but we're just going to start with that to be real basic and kind of straight to the point. My name is Steve Rubin. I've lived in the Bay Area my entire life, been a sports fan my entire life. So 49ers, Warriors, Sharks, and the Giants. So during this podcast, it's going to be more of me just talking about each of these teams and kind of going into how I think they can get to the promised land. Obviously, the Giants and the Warriors have done that the past couple of years, but I like any sports fan, you want to do it every year. So I'm just going to kind of go over just the state of each team and kind of go over what I think they need to do to repeat in the Warriors situation or in the 49ers get back to being respectable. So during this podcast, I'm going to bring in a lot of different people, friends that, not experts, but people that know a lot about each of these teams. This first one is just going to be me, and it's just going to be me kind of talking about my feelings on each of these teams. So we're going to get right into it, actually. So we're going to go right into the Warriors. So the Golden State Warriors. I mean, as a Bay Area fan, and a lot of you guys that are Bay Area fans have been following the Warriors, there's a lot that have hopped on that bandwagon, but there are a ton that have been there the entire time. So as a fan that's been there the entire time, this is remarkable. This is almost, you got to pinch yourself because it's so ridiculous. I've watched the Warriors when they struggled to get to 20 wins. I have a Larry Hughes jersey that I wear. I mean, the excitement that I saw last year was the entire time you were telling yourself, like, how are they going to screw this one up? I mean, you're just so jaded by all the past, all the Don Nelson, the PJ Carlissimos, all the horrible drafts of Todd Fuller and Ike Diagu. I mean, all these things that you've seen in your day, you just were shocked by it. So, I mean, it's just an amazing time. It's a time where you got to almost pinch yourself, and you got to say, don't take this for granted. I say that to myself all the time. I try to watch every game because this is the type of team that you tell your kids about. The type of team like the early 80s, mid 80s, late 80s, even a little bit into the 90s 49ers that we hear about from our parents. This is a team that will put the Warriors on the map maybe forever. This Warriors team was, when they, in the mid-90s, no one knew who they were. You'd ask someone in the East Coast about the Golden State Warriors, they'd be like, who? This is absolutely remarkable. The thing about this team is that it's homegrown. It's all drafted and re-signed, and it's kind of a refreshing thing, kind of similar to what the Giants have done, where they bring up their own guys, they reward their own guys, they bring in a couple pieces here and there, but really this is a homegrown team. You look at their best players, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green. This is homegrown guys they've drafted. Draymond's situation, I'm sure he's even better than they even thought because he's probably mad at all the other teams for passing up on him. The Warriors passed up on him twice. I mean, they drafted Harrison Barnes with the 7th pick, and then Festus Ezeli with, I want to say, the 28th or somewhere around there, late first round pick. So they picked 2 different guys ahead of him. So no one thought that he would be where he is right now, an all-star forward and one of the best in the game that's getting a triple-double, once a month here, or even, he had a stretch where he had 3 or 4 in a row. I mean, this is pretty remarkable. So the chemistry is really what, besides talent, obviously there's a ton of talent. They're really going into the scheme that Steve Kerr and Walton and all of them have kind of put together. But the chemistry is what makes this team even better than what they are when it comes to talent. That's why, when there was the NBA trade deadline yesterday, they didn't mess with anything. They didn't want to trade anybody. I was thinking to myself, who would I want? And honestly, I wouldn't want anybody. I really wouldn't. If the Knicks called me and said, hey, we'll pay for all of Carmelo Anthony's contract and we'll just give him to you, I would say no. Honestly, I mean that's crazy to think a starting all-star for the East, and I would say no to that. Absolutely, it would mess the chemistry. It would mess with our game. Carmelo's a little overrated in my mind as an all-around player, but that's a whole nother story. But I think it's a pretty awesome time to be a Warrior, and that's why this Kevin Durant stuff, it's exciting, but at the same time, you're like, do we want to mess with what we got? I mean, we have such a good team right now that has 48 wins going into the All-Star break, on pace to break the Bulls record for best team ever, best record ever. Is that something you want to break up? So that's a dilemma that Jerry West and the GM Bob Myers are going to have to figure out. And I trust them right now. They've done nothing to make me not trust them. So they're going to do whatever's best for this team and whatever is going to set up this team for long-term success. Luckily, Durant is young, so if we do get him, it won't be the end of the world here. But we just want to make sure, in the back of all of our minds, we all know that Steph Curry is a free agent after next year. That's got to be number one priority. More than anything, more than re-signing anyone on this team, it's keeping Curry on this team. I have no reason to believe he would leave. Obviously, Hornets would do anything to get him, but why would you leave this team to go to the Hornets? I mean, it's just kind of crazy. So the Warriors are in such a great situation right now that I'm loving watching every game. I've growing up, I would watch a lot of games, but this one I don't want to miss one, and I go out of my way to watch each and every Warrior game, and it's just with life being sometimes stressful, it takes all the stress away because most of the time they're going to win, So it's pretty awesome. An interesting tidbit that I've read today, and it'll be interesting to see what the Warriors brass thinks of this. But David Lee might be bought out of his contract out in Boston. He never fit into their system. It's very interesting. Everyone thought he'd be like that team leader, kind of that vet that they needed. But they're winning with the young guys. They're winning with Sullinger. They're winning with Olnick. I butchered that name. But they just didn't need him, and he didn't fit in their system. He's kind of griping more than he ever griped with us. So it'll be interesting if they do buy him out. He's then going to be cheap. Would the Warriors take a flyer on him, especially with Ezeli injured as of right now? You can never have too many big guys. Spates is playing well, though, right now. If Spates wasn't playing well, I think it would be a no-brainer. I think we would definitely go out and pick him up, but now it'll be interesting. I definitely wouldn't want to see him on any of our quote-unquote rivals as of right now. I wouldn't want to see him go to the Cavaliers. I wouldn't want to see him go to the Clippers or any of those teams. But it'll be interesting. So, more to come with that. But as we transition to the Giants, a fellow team that's winning right now, the Warriors, at the end of the day, I don't take them for granted. I absolutely don't. I talk about them too much. I wear the shirts and jerseys so much that my fiance is almost repulsed. But it's an amazing time, and I truly, truly enjoy watching this team. So now we transition to another championship team, the San Francisco Giants. I mean, this is just an unbelievable time to be a Giants fan. They're never like the Warriors in that even when they do win, even if they've won 3 out of the last 6 now, they're never supposed to win. Like the Warriors right now are supposed to win. The Giants are always like this team, David versus Goliath sort of team that comes in and just wins. And it's because they have players like Posey and Panic and all these calm, cool, collected guys that don't fold under pressure. They thrive in it, and they just play their same game no matter what, and they believe in each other, and you could tell there's like a real brotherhood there. So this 2016 season, is a really exciting one. I mean, this is the most exciting off season that I've seen in a long time. I mean, it reminds me of a off season that didn't work as well in the long run, or even the short run, for that matter. When the Giants, I want to say 2005, got Armando Benitez, Ray Durham, and someone else, maybe Edgardo Alfonso or something like that. And it was such an exciting time. Hopefully this works out way better than it did that offseason. But getting Johnny Cueto, Jeff Samardzija, and Span, Denard Span, is pretty crazy to think that we got all three. I mean, if someone said before the offseason that you would get all three of those, you tell them, shut up, like, get out of here. Like, we're not going to sign all three. That's just not what the Giants do. But maybe with all the success and a lot of homegrown guys, and homegrown guys in baseball is really the key to success, because you have them for all these years without them making that much money. You know, once they get to free agency, that's when you got to lay down the big bucks. But right now we're having Bumgarner for, 10, 12 million a year. I mean, I'll have to look that up, but it's not going to be the 20, 25, 30 million he'll get on the open market. So you just got to take advantage of this time and try to win as much as you can. So what I'm going to do, and to go back a little bit, the key to the Giants' success has been the manager, Bruce Bochy. I mean, how unbelievable of a pickup was that, and how much did the Padres probably regret getting rid of him? He brought them to the World Series back in the late 90s against the Yankees with a nobody team. I honestly, besides, I don't even know if Gwynn was still playing back then, but I can't name really any player from that team. So he's a leader, and he knows how to lead his men. He knows how to make the clubhouse chemistry stay strong. And that's a key when it comes to the Warriors' success. And the Giants' success, it seems, is the chemistry in that clubhouse. 49ers, that's a whole nother story. The chemistry there is none. And there's no coincidence that they're now horrible. 5-11, it's embarrassing. But we'll talk more about the 49ers in a couple minutes here. But let's go piece by piece of the off-season moves that the Giants have made. So first off, we got Johnny Cueto. So Johnny Cueto, a couple years ago, was up there for NL Cy Young. I think he was second for NL Cy Young and behind Kershaw, and he was even up for MVP. I mean, he had that dominant of a year. And he followed that last year playing that same type of ball with the Reds. And he was unhittable. He had swagger. He's fun. He's kind of like a pitcher version of Pablo when it comes to just a fun-loving guy, having a blast out there. Kind of brings new flair that you've never seen, especially from the pitcher standpoint. You see some flair with hitters every once in a while, but pitchers are usually, especially starting pitchers, very calm and emotionless. But that's definitely not Cueto's case. Cueto is going to show a lot of emotion out there. He's going to have a lot of fun out there. So it's going to be a lot of fun for us to watch him pitch. And for him to be a number 2 for us, it's huge. It's exciting. And to have him have an opt-out in 2 years is scary and good at the exact same time. It's good because it's going to keep him wanting to pitch really well. It's going to keep his drive going. Not that it would go away, but you see that sometimes with large contracts. The players just become lackadaisical and just don't have that same drive. I think that with large contracts, there's really 2 ways you can go. You can kind of calm down and go like, I got the contract. And that's when you see a lot of people struggling. Or players say, like, I have to live up to this contract. And then they get better because of it. Hopefully, Cueto sees that 2-year opt-out and wants to pitch really well the next 2 years in order to make even more money in this incredible free agent class that's coming up in a couple of years. And we'll talk more about that on a later podcast. But Cueto itself, it's pretty exciting to have a pitcher like that. It's the best pitcher I've seen the Giants pick up out of free agency that I've ever seen us do. So I mean, this is really exciting. He pitches a lot of innings. He throws a lot of strikeouts, and it'll be an exciting one. Our next pickup was he was actually our first pickup, but Jeff Samardzija. A couple years ago, Jeff Samardzija was an ace. I mean, with the A's, the Cubs, this guy was a frontline starter. You know, a one or most likely a two, but could be a one for a lesser team. Luckily, we have him as a 3, so that's a good start. Struggled a lot last year with the White Sox, but it seemed like there were some rumblings that there was some turmoil with with maybe their pitching coach out there. It just wasn't. It was a 1-year deal there, and it just was pretty awful, honestly. I mean, I had him on my fantasy team, and his second half of the year was pretty epically bad. So let's hope he gets back to more 2012, 2013, 14 Jeff Samardzija, and just puts that 2015 in the past. And I think he will. He's built just like Bumgarner, but as a righty. He's a big, strong guy. He's got a lot of velocity. He's going to have Bumgarner behind him. Posey behind the plate to help him. So I'm really strongly see a bounce back year for him. Also, with our ballpark, I see those home runs that he gave up aren't going to happen as much at AT&T. So I'm really excited about Jeff Samardzija. But we'll see. Only time will tell if that's a good deal. We didn't give him too much money. $90 million to us is a gigantic amount of money, but in baseball terms, to a pitcher that could be an elite pitcher, that's not crazy. And lastly, we got Denard Span. Denard Span is an elite top of the order guy when healthy. He's had a lot of health issues the past couple of years. You know, he was up there with. He got some MVP votes in 2014 when he was healthy for the whole year. Solid contact hitter. Fast. He's not going to hit you many home runs, but he's going to get on base. He's going to steal bases, and he's going to play the center field very well. And that's what we need. And it'll be interesting to see how Angel Pagan reacts to this and how he takes going over to left field. Knowing him, it might not go well. And if that's the case, then, you know, this is his last year on the contract. We could easily buy him out. But I would say that hopefully he can take it. You know, he's still going to be our starting left fielder unless Jared Parker comes into spring training and blows it up like he did late last year. If he does, then unfortunately Pagan is going to have to be on the bench for a little bit. But we have an injury prone center fielder right now. So having that backup is actually really, really key. So it's just an amazing time to be a Giants fan. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. It's an even year, so everyone's saying, yeah, here we go again. But it's just fun. I mean, it's fun to watch a team, especially with 162 games in a season, that you think can win every game, that can win each and every night. That's an exciting thing to have. Because when you have 162 games in a season and you have a team that sucks, that's a rough one. And we saw that in the mid-2000s with the Giants, and it's hard to watch those games when you just don't think they're going to win. So this is exciting. So it'll be interesting to see what we do. It'll be interesting to see how the Dodgers do without Greinke, and if, you know, those young guys, you know, they have a great minor league system, which we unfortunately don't at this moment. So it'll be interesting to see how their young guys come up and play. So I transition now to our 49ers. This one is a interesting one. There's a lot of emotions going on with 49ers. Like, oh, we hate Jed York. How can you get rid of Harbaugh? You know, Balky sucks. Is Chip Kelly the right hire? There's a lot of emotions and anger when people start thinking of the 49ers. I think football in general brings up a really strong sense of emotion for some reason. Maybe it's just the way that the game's played, but a lot of anger and comes with NFL. And And the way that things have kind of gone down the past couple of years, it's kind of warranted almost in this case. So I'll go over this offseason so far and what I think we should do and what the state of the 49ers are right this second. So we all know the past couple of years have been as about a big of a disaster as you could possibly go. I mean, we went from Super Bowl contenders 2 years ago. I mean, I remember the 2014 first game when we beat Dallas in Dallas. I thought there was a chance we can go undefeated. And how wrong was I? I mean, we went 8-8. Harbaugh was fired. Justin Smith and Patrick Willis and Borland retired. Alden Smith got released. It was just as big of a shit show as you could possibly ever imagine a team collapse like. And it sucks. It was a rough one to know we were so close and never got to that promised land. And then everything just collapsed. Back at square one. I mean, it really is square one in the fact that last year, I mean, we had a Jim Tomsula as head coach, and don't get me started with that. I mean, it's just to see a leader that you just truly, personally don't believe in, and who knows what the players were thinking. That's a tough one. That's a tough one to watch. I watched a lot of those games, and I wish I didn't. But luckily, I think the darkest times have gone by us, hopefully. I think I was personally a fan of the Chip Kelly hire just because it gives us a light, a glimmer of hope, a guy that can possibly bring this team around, a Harbaugh sense of intelligence and intellect when it comes to the game of football. Unfortunately, Harbaugh type of character as when it comes to the media and talking with players and stuff like that, but hopefully, this is a good marriage. I mean, they both needed each other. We weren't going to get a top-line guy. We weren't. I mean, we don't have enough talent to bring in a coach that has everything going for him. So you need kind of a coach that needs to be resurrected. Just like the 49ers need to be resurrected, Chip Kelly does. Chip Kelly knows that this is his last chance at being a head coach in the NFL for at least 5 years if this one fails. I mean, if this one fails, he's going to have to go back to college. And even then, it's going to be tough to come back to NFL just because, I mean, if this fails, he's going to see two different franchises take a chance on him and fail. It's going to be tough. So he knows what he's working up against. So I think he's going to take that challenge head on. So now we work with our roster. I mean, our roster is not very good. It is a roster that has a lot of, I mean, Balky missed on a lot of draft picks. I mean, the 2012 draft class, no one's on the team anymore. And we've had some interesting draft picks like Jimmy Ward and Vance McDonald. I mean, who knows what they'll be, but Vance McDonald so far does not look like a second-round tight end. I can tell you that right now. He looks like a backup that might not be in the league in a couple of years. He physically looks like he should be, but he just doesn't play that way. So I think when they drafted him, they were hoping for a Gronkowski-type guy, and right now you're looking like Brent Selleck is better than him, and that's not a good thing. And then the Jimmy Ward, this is a big season for him. You know, it's interesting to sign a nickel corner. I mean, to draft a nickel corner in the first round, especially a guy who wasn't even a corner in college. He was a free safety. So it'll be interesting. I mean, this is a make or break season for him, I think. So, okay, so our roster's a little depleted, and we really have a lot to work with, luckily, when it comes to cap room. So first off, free agency. That's a difficult one in the fact that, yeah, we have the money, but we're going to have to overpay to get people to come here. Let's say Von Miller didn't get franchise tagged, which he absolutely will. If he's a free agent, why in hell would he come to us? We are, right now, a shit show, and everyone knows that. So free agency is going to be a little tough. We're going to have to get a little bit lesser guys to just kind of build our reputation up a little bit better. So, I mean, I've kind of nixed the higher class guys, the top of the line guys, because a lot of people are going to have money. And unfortunately, right now, the Raiders are more of an attractive place to go than the 49ers. And that is real. And that's something that is shocking to all 49er fans, is that the Raiders are more attractive and they have more cap space. So that's an interesting tidbit to think of. So some of the free agents I think we should look at possibly getting is going to be, in my mind, I would like to get Bruce Irvin up in Seattle. I think Ahmad Brooks, his time is done. I mean, I like the guy. He did well a couple years ago, but he's clearly kind of a head case, and he's making a lot of money, and he's not sacking the quarterback or doing anything like that. So I think his time as an outside linebacker, pass rusher, is going to be done with us. So I think Bruce Irvin would be a good one for us. I think Tremaine Johnson or Janoris Jenkins would be a great addition. We need a cornerback. We have a bunch of fourth round guys that we've kind of taken flyers on, hoping to be the next Richard Sherman. And Balky's got to realize that that's just not the case. And that's not the type of players we have, unfortunately. Who knows? Next year something could change, but if you have too many good cornerbacks, that's a great problem to have. So I think we got to sign some cornerback to get there, and we're going to have to overpay, unfortunately. That's just something we're going to have to do. And then offensive line. I mean, that's huge right now. I mean, we all watched last year, and I think the coaches really, really did a poor job of picking the right guys out there. I mean, I'm not in practice, but I could tell you Davey and Pears, those aren't the right guys to be starting on any roster. Even if your roster's depleted, I mean, you just got to take a chance on the younger guys. And an undrafted Davey and then a veteran who's just not very good like Pears, I mean, that was a miss by us. And it's too bad because we have the guy we drafted from Clemson, Brandon Thomas, that's not being used. We had some younger guys, Tiller and Silberman, that just weren't used enough until the very end. So our offensive line just needs to be addressed. And there are rumors circulating that Anthony Davis is going to come back. And he actually wrote on his Twitter that he guaranteed he was going to come back. So getting him, putting him at right tackle would be huge. We need that stability right now. Getting Kilgore back, putting him at center, re-signing Boone, I think, is a priority. Put him at guard. And then I guess we could always sign another guy, but I think we're going to have to draft a guard. And that's where I'm going to go to right now. Oh, first, actually, I'm going to talk the QB situation. Wow, what a dramatic thing we got going on with Kaepernick. I'm sure glad I didn't buy his jersey when I almost did. Great athletic guy. I mean, the guy has the arm. We've seen it. We saw it in an NFC Championship game against the Falcons. The guy has a rocket arm. And he has a better accuracy around 15 to 20 yards down the field on a slant than he does, or a post, than he does those short passes, which is unfortunate because with Chip Kelly's offense, you just have to have accuracy in general. And that's what Kaepernick does not have. You see a lot of the NFL talking heads saying, oh, this is a great marriage between Kaepernick and Chip Kelly. I don't think it is. Yeah, he can run. He definitely can run, and that would help him. But he can't throw accurately, which is unfortunately going to be his downfall in the NFL in general, unless something changes. And then Gabbert, God, how not exciting is Gabbert? He did well. It's just not a sexy name. If you get Gabbert out there as your starting quarterback, you're just, in the back of your mind, you're like, oh man, we are an NFL franchise with Blaine Gabbert as their starting quarterback. That is not exciting. So, I mean, there's rumors out there that, we'll probably drop Kaepernick. We're trying to trade him right now, and it's not gonna happen. If we do, we'll get like a 4th or 5th round pick, and it's almost not even worth it. I mean, it's just kind of an embarrassing thing. Most likely we'll release him. We're going to have Gabbert as our main guy. And then there's two different options that we could do. One would be there are rumors that Bradford might come here, which is better than Gabbert. I can tell you right now, he's going to cost a lot, unfortunately, and he's really injury prone. But he does have better accuracy, and he's a good player. I wouldn't be upset with that. But don't get your hopes up on that, Niner fans. I just don't see that being what we do. Most likely, we're going to keep Gabbert and then draft a guy. This is where it gets interesting. With that 7th pick, this is where, do we draft a quarterback? Do we draft a guy that we want to be our quarterback for the future? And that brings up names as Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. And then the Memphis guy, I think Lynch is not going to be on our radar. I think he's kind of dropped a little bit. The combine's going to be huge for him and the other guys. That'll kind of put more into clarity who's going to be the best. But in general, obviously, my mind wants Goff. You know, we've passed up on 2 Bay Area quarterbacks in our day, and that's Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. We can't make that mistake again. We absolutely can't. And if he's there at 7, and we've released Kaepernick, you absolutely have to draft Goff. I mean, I almost just in precedent. Not even like his. I've watched him play, and he, you know, in that bowl game, that last game, and he looked great. But we just can't have that rubbed in our face one more time. I'd rather every pick is going to be some type of a gamble, and I think that's a gamble I'm willing to take. But most likely, he's not going to get past the Browns or the Chargers or the Cowboys. So, and then, like I said, the combine will just kind of put in that pecking order of who's the best quarterback. So he still could be the number 1. If he is, he won't be there. If Carson Wentz is the first, then he might be there at 7. Other ones I like are Laquan Treadwell, wide receiver. No wide receivers in the free agency, really, that is worth throwing big money at. So I think getting a big-bodied, fast, reliable receiver that could be our number 1 guy is definitely a need for us. And lastly, Miles Jack. I think that would be a really great pick to put him with Navarro Bowman, kind of get that Patrick Willis-Bowman swagger back. I mean, you just don't have that same swagger when you got Bowman, Will Hoyt back there. It's just not the same whatsoever. So if you get Miles Jack, you add that with a couple free agent signings in the defense, that could really solidify that. So it'll be really interesting what we do. Obviously, this is kind of a common thing with any sports fan. We're all in loser denial. We think this offseason is going to bring us back, which I know it's not, but I'm hoping we can. At least get back to respectability. Get back to 8-8. So, exciting time for the Warriors and Giants right now. 49ers, it's exciting weirdly, but it more of a what are we going to do next? How are we going to get back our feet back underneath us? Because right now it's been a rough one. So that's it for today. I'm going to keep doing this every once in a while, just kind of go over each of these teams in greater detail, and it'll be fun. So thanks for your time, and we'll be doing this again soon. All right, bye.